Hi, everyone. Happy Monday. Welcome back to Ask Amy. I have a question today from Annmarie, and it's a really good question. It's a little bit different than what we're used to getting, so I'm really excited. I'm just going to dive right in and read her question. So she says, I've just left psychotherapy after 6 months of weekly sessions. I discovered the 3 principles about 4 weeks ago, and in a way I don't entirely understand, they just made sense, and continuing with psychotherapy seemed meaningless. I feel so much better, held in some way that I wasn't before. Can you help me put into words why this is happening? So what is so funny about this, like this is the kind of thing that happens all the time for people. And there's not a problem in the world with it, clearly. I mean, she's seen something, and we'll look there in a second, but she's looking in this new direction and away from maybe the problems and what was wrong and how things were looking in that model in this new direction. And suddenly she says she feels so much better, held or supported in a way that she wasn't before. And clearly that's a wonderful thing. But what's so funny about this is how our minds just want to kind of figure out why. Like, I didn't do anything. I didn't make this happen. I didn't, realize one huge thing in one moment and have it all change. And what all of that is just all of our old thinking from old models about how change happens. Like you guys have heard me talk about this a million times, that we're so in this still. There's a huge paradigm shift happening, but we're still very much in this model of, like, the way that people change is we do a bunch of stuff. We learn things with our intellect. We have to learn something we didn't know before, or we put a bunch of action steps into place. We do a bunch of stuff. We change our mindset. It's so heavy in terms of what we're doing and our role in it. And what we've seen, what we all know, we all intuitively know this, is that we can go out and try really hard and put a ton of effort into things and use a bunch of willpower and learn a bunch of new things. And sometimes that works and gives us some change, but that change is rarely deep or lasting or sustainable. I mean, it comes from learning and doing. So it's going to last as long as the learning and the doing are there, right? That just makes sense. Like, if you're working really hard to make something happen, you only have so much energy and effort and willpower to keep making that happen. And I think there's this whole misunderstanding that, oh, well, I'll just work really hard and then it'll catch on, then it'll just be natural. Then I'll be changed and it'll be really easy from there. And, sometimes I think that probably happens. But again, it's a completely different place than where we look in the Little School of Big Change and in everything that I share here with you guys every week. So Annmarie was in psychotherapy, doing her thing, right? Talking about her issues, I assume. And there's nothing at all wrong with that. I'm not at all saying, like, don't do psychotherapy or it isn't helpful. She was doing things the way she was doing them. And then she says she came across this understanding that we share here. And suddenly she feels so much different. And going back to psychotherapy doesn't make sense anymore. Well, me too. And for thousands of people all over the place, like, that is how it goes. So that's wonderful. Now, what happened, Annmarie? I don't know exactly, and I don't really want to try to put a lot of words to it, because that's what our mind wants. Our mind says, help me figure this out. Let me wrap myself around this and take credit for it. And truly what happens when we start to have big shifts that lead to, like, a sea change, like a way of seeing yourself or life that's radically different, and that is just a complete transformation, not just a change, but a transformation, that happens beneath the level of our mind. It isn't something you necessarily consciously learn or pick up or start doing. It's deeper than that. It's a lot deeper than that. And that's why we can't explain it. And that's why this is such a common question, and also so baffling for those of us who have been there, because our mind is like, wait a minute, I'm driving the ship here. Like, I'm used to being in charge. I'm the one who makes change happen. But truly, our mind is not what makes deep and lasting change happen. It happens beneath the level of our mind or our intellect. It happens on a deep level. There's a shift. And then we start to see things and feel differently and act differently. We're seeing this so much right now in the school. So, the school opened a couple weeks ago. So we have people in there for a week or two, brand new people for a week or two. And so much of this is starting to happen where people are saying things like, something feels different. Now, my habit's still here, my addiction's still here, my anxiety's still here kind of, but I feel like a shift is happening. And that sounds very vague, but it's a very distinct feeling. I mean, that's what I'm hearing and what Annmarie's saying here, that something is different. Now, she feels differently, and she stopped therapy and did all kinds, actually making some changes. But sometimes it takes a little bit for the thoughts and the feelings and the behaviors to really catch up, because again, where we're looking is before all of that. We're looking at something that's deeper than our psychology. And so when we start to feel a shift in that, it isn't something we can really put words around or explain. We try, and we're kind of just making that up. We're making up words that make sense, but truly it's a shift at a deeper level. And eventually what happens when we stick with that shift, things keep shifting. It's like getting a crack in your windshield. You drive around, if something else hits your windshield, or even if it doesn't, you're just out using your car, that crack is likely to spread, right? So it's like there is a crack. There's a crack that happens in us. And we start to see things differently. And then without needing to go in and do more, it just continues to spread, and we see more and more. Now, the flip side of this happens sometimes too, and is happening for a couple people in the school right now as well, where they're saying, I feel this shift. Like things look different. Everything makes sense. Everything you're sharing here makes sense about how we work, how our minds work, why we have these habits. But my habit itself hasn't moved yet. In fact, maybe it's gotten a little bit worse. It's like I'm doing this more, yet I know this shift is happening. That, again, it will throw your mind for a loop. Your ego is going to have a field day with this one. But that's not uncommon. It's not uncommon at all. And it makes perfect sense, really, because, again, we're talking about a shift at a really deep foundational level. Like for Annmarie, when she was in therapy, talking about her problems, talking about her past, and then starts looking toward these principles where we're talking about the fact that we're full of health, full of resilience. Our experience, it's real. Yes, stuff is brought to life that's not always pleasant, but it comes and it goes. It washes away. It isn't about us. It isn't meaningful. It isn't personal. It isn't deep. It's stuff that comes into our experience. It's brought to life and then washes away. It's why I use this river metaphor all the time, right? So it comes up, it's brought to life in such a emotional, physical way, and then it washes down the river. That's how all of our experience works all the time, no exceptions. So, you start looking in that direction without even your conscious mind putting anything together. It's not shocking at all that you start feeling like, wow, suddenly things look different. Suddenly I feel different. Suddenly this thing over here that was such a problem doesn't look like a problem in quite the same way. And like I was saying about a couple people in the school, and again, this is really common, at the same time that those deeper shifts are happening, sometimes our mind is over here saying, no, we're not going to get over this easily. Like, it cannot be that simple. And so it's not uncommon at all for habits to get a little bit faster, pick up the pace a little bit. And all that means, it's temporary, but all that means is our mind, it's kind of like our mind or our ego, like fighting. It's like its last ditch effort. Like, I'm in charge. I'm running things around here, and you're not going to get rid of me this easily, So again, that's lots of places, and I'm sure you guys listening, like, People have experienced that. Sometimes your mind speeds up before it quiets down, and that's just it being afraid. It's just realizing, oh crap, you know, she's on to me. He's on to me. I don't look as important and meaningful and truthful as I used to. So Annmarie, I don't know, I think it's awesome. I mean, the thing is, like, go with it. Just go with it. Go with how you feel. If you're feeling this way and you're feeling supported in a way you weren't before and things are looking different, that's awesome. And just know it is human nature, mental human nature, for our mind to say, why did this happen and what caused it and how can I replicate it and how can I take credit for it? But that's just the mind in there trying to run the show, you know, and it doesn't. These shifts happen far deeper, at a deeper level. It's a foundational thing, and it's going to continue. That's the really awesome news. When we feel something like this and you see some big change like this that you can't explain, that's just the beginning. It's like the foundation of your house is cracked. And now, before you know it, the rest of the house is going to fall down. But this is like the positive side of that. You know, like there's a change, there's a major crack and shift that's happened, and it's just going to keep going and keep getting better. So let me know how it keeps going for you, Annmarie. I can't wait to hear. And thanks so much for sending this question, because it is a cool one. It's different than what we're kind of used to talking about here, but I love how it kind of comes at this whole understanding from a different angle and shines even more light on what's going on here. So thanks so much, guys, for listening. I'll be back here next Monday at 1 o'clock Eastern, like I always am. Send your questions to AskAmy at thelittleschoolofbigchange.com, and I'll see you then. Bye.